All right, so let's start with our first little section here, which is capitalism. Uh, Capitalism is its own giant topic. Like I said, we can do a deeper dive on that separately. But for the purposes of this presentation, for talking about socialism, I think it's mostly just important to say that capitalism has evolved out of various forms of hierarchical society structures through history, starting with perhaps the oldest one, the gerontocracy, the rule by the elderly. And it's gone through a bunch of different phases, and in particular in the industrial era, since the end of the feudal era and industrialization and all, we've seen the rise of nation states, and that's kind of the system that we've lived in as a society, and particularly a global society, for the last few centuries now. This global system of nation states that more or less are capitalist. There's different forms of it, and the slide even points it out that some lean a little bit more toward a social democracy sort of take, where it has a little bit more safety nets. Think of like the Scandinavian countries. Some of them are much more neoliberal, where they just throw everything into the market, and that's, of course, like the U.S. is very heavily promoting that globally. So there's a little bit of a range, but much of the world at this point is underneath that neoliberal capitalist global empire sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at today when we think about how we need to organize.
And I think an important thing to understand too is, while modern capitalism can manifest in different ways, and the realities of what that looks like can be, pretty markedly different on the ground, depending where you are on the world. Global capitalism, is the dominant system. So even socialist projects in the world are still operating within a larger world that is dominated by the global capitalist system, right? So that skews things, right? That means that a socialist state excuse me, like Venezuela, has to sell their oil, right, on a capitalist marketplace as a petrostate. That means that a socialist project, going right back to Venezuela, like Venezuela, has to deal with billions of dollars a year being stolen by capitalist states, right? So the whole thing operates within, with the even socialist projects in the world are operating within a global capitalism that has a pretty strong hold. There's not really many places in the world you can go and you can escape it. So that's true. Dark Prince 355 says neoliberalism isn't capitalism. Neoliberalism is exactly capitalism by design.
Oh, yeah.
This is the design for capitalism. Neoliberalism is still private ownership of the means of production, which is the main definition of capitalism. That's 101 baseline political education. Cronyism is just a smokescreen people throw up to defend capitalism. Cronyism is capitalism. Corporatism is capitalism. Neoliberalism is capitalism. They're all different words for the same oppressive, exploitative system. So